Your colleague, the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, expressed contrition in a big speech about Liz Truss this week. He couldn't quite say sorry. You were Chief Secretary at the time. Will you say sorry for what happened?
Well, I think Mel openly and honestly acknowledged that mistakes were made in that time. Mistakes were made. And what Mel was saying is that those mistakes will never be made again by a Conservative administration. And of course, we do see some parties today, like Reform, making extravagant promises about massive tax cuts and increases in welfare that are completely unfunded and could cause a repeat of what happened then. But those mistakes will never again be made by a Conservative government.
Well, Chris Philp, you were the Chief Secretary to the Treasury at the time. There were 45 billion of unfunded tax cuts. Mortgage rates went soaring. There had to be emergency intervention. I'll ask you again, do you want to just say sorry for that? Maybe so you can move on.
Well, look, I think huge mistakes were made, as I've said already.
But will you say sorry? Isn't this precisely the thing that drives people bananas about politicians? You make a speech in London, your colleague makes a speech in London expressing contrition, which is a fancy way for saying we got it wrong and we're sorry. Will you say sorry to people for the Liz Truss implosion?
Well, look, Mel was pressed on this, Mel Stride, and he said mistakes were made, right? And they're not going to happen again, right? So it's very, very clear indeed. And it's relevant because we see another party, Reform, saying, you know, what Liz Truss said times 5 or times 3 on a whole bigger scale. So we've learnt from that episode, and those mistakes will never be made again.
But as a human being, if you make a mistake, you say, yeah, we messed up. Don't you just say sorry?
Look, we've been really clear. I mean, I don't know how many more times to say it. It was a mistake. They got it wrong, and those mistakes will never be made again.